We've got a guest. My oh my, a surprise guest. You know, I had a dog named Ginger. Do you think, Dana, that's the Ginger the dog?
No, I think they can see who I am.
Oh.
Our bestest listener.
Oh. Hey, Ron, is this the Ginger of lore?
A little surprise to me too, actually.
No, I think I muted them, but they have to get through the tough. They have to get through the. They have to get through the tough checks. They can't just barge on in here like that. You know, I know this is an open forum, but I just wanted to make sure. So, Ron, is this person here the real Ginger?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Well, hello, Ginger. Let me.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Joining the show, I didn't know that I was actually going to join the show.
Oh, well.
Wow.
I thought I was just sneaking in to listen to see if you had gotten. Well, I did see the email response, but I was just sneaking in to kind of see if the topics were going to be discussed.
Well, I will say it's pretty amazing. You are
email?
our first emailer to contact us, so it's kind of appropriate that you would come on the show to celebrate this moment.
Awesome. Where we need some good music for that, like jingle.
A jingle?
Yeah.
You know, we only have one song.
Just let her rip, Jeff. Let her rip.
Okay. Well, this is the better song, I think. This is appropriate. I mean, this is our first emailer.
This is perfect. I like that. That is.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome.
All right. That's better than a jingle.
Hey, well, I'm so excited. I had no idea that pressing that button and setting it all up and everything, that I would actually join the phone call. That's amazing.
Now, you're welcome to join us, or I can mute you. It's up to you. Since you didn't really expect to be here, you just let me know.
Okay. Well, I might join you for the next few. We'll see how it goes.
Now, I do have a question for you.
I have some questions too.
Wait a minute here. Can you see the little text thing on the side so we could text each other too? I've always wondered about this.
I don't see a text right now. No. How do I do that?
I was just wondering. I think I might need to do something. But it says "How about now" on the right. Maybe you gotta push the little window in the upper left corner, depending on what kind of device you're using. Anyhow, Dana has a question, and I have a feeling it's a good one.
Ooh,
well, I guess first I just have a thanks and admiration. Like you've really toughed it out through these shows, right? Aren't you one of our most faithful listeners, or the most
Deep State Dana
faithful listener we've ever had?
Well, yes, I am.
So thank you,
Deep State Dana.
I'm thanking you, but also why do you listen to So what does the DJ Ron show do for you?
Well, it sometimes annoys me and sometimes entertains me on my long commute back and forth to work.
Oh.
Wow. Perfect. I mean, with the length of the shows that we do, it's probably perfect commuter length, right? Like we've gone 2 hours in the past. Wow.
Yeah. Right now I'm currently doing an hour to an hour and a half. So it's perfect.
Wow. So we're competing with NPR.
No. You're definitely not not for me anyways. That's a no for me.
And then, gosh, this is such a night of firsts. I think this is our first female guest.
Oh.
Yes.
More music.
Woo.
Where is that music?
More estrogen in the house.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
All right.
Okay.
Well, this is just all wonderful. Now I don't know what happened to Ron. He seems to have disappeared.
I scared him.
No, I'm
He got
here.
shy.
I'm here.
He got shy.
I'm here.
Are you flabbergasted?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, well.
Well, this is important because for our many other listeners, it is true that I do put the link at the Facebook page, which does mean you can walk right in. You not only are our first email, but you're also the first to walk right into the room.
Walked right in. Normally I press the YouTube video button. That's how I listen to it on the way to work. But when I pressed it, it wasn't live. So I was like, I got to know what they're talking about. I want to know if they're on my topics. So then I signed up. I went in and did this whole app thing. And I was searching and trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden, I'm on your show. How exciting.
Well, that's an invitation to anybody on the Facebook page. They can just click the thing. And then we can decide whether we unmute them or not. And Ron gave you the thumbs up.
He did?
Yeah.
My brother.
This is excellent. I'm
surprised he gave me the thumbs up.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
I assume we often don't know. I know this is going to shock you, but we often don't know what we're going to talk about. But we do have a list of things, and I assumed we were going to address those things because those are sort of giant issues.
Yes, I think Ginger's topics just are going to rule the day because she has really come through for this show in so many ways. I think she deserves it. Ginger is the DJ tonight.
Yeah,
wow.
I agree.
Wow. I need to know how to input some music and stuff at certain times.
Oh.
Well, no, that's Jeff's job.
Okay. I'll just cue Jeff then.
Well, Jeff does a good job when he when he wants to.
I don't know how to respond because I don't know if that's true.
You do great.
That's very true. Oh, Jeff, you are you know what you're doing, buddy.
So
DJ Ginger, go ahead.
Yeah, DJ Ginger. So speaking about topics.
So wait, let me ask. I mean, did you even play like the intro music? I mean, is this like going on right now?
Oh, it's going. It's on. It says live.
Well, I saw that, but I don't know if that's actually true.
I'm confused by Ron, but go ahead, DJ Ginger. Don't let Ron stop you.
Okay. Do you have any? I don't think that you do because I've never heard it, but I do have a suggestion for the intro of discussion of Trump. So y'all heard that song "All I Do Is Win"?
Oh, Dana was reading some comments from a video. Can you recall some of those comments about Trump winning, Dana?
Oh, I probably can't read at the moment, but it was so like Tim Pool, I really like him. Ron, I'd shared one of his videos with Ron, and he's kind of like a real middle of the road guy, you know,
Sort of. I did like him. Sort of though, Dana. We haven't
sort of.
really had a chance to in depthly have a conversation about him. But I honestly, I only listened to one thing. But based
Oh,
on that one thing that I listened to, I will say I did enjoy it very much. I do agree he has a different approach to this stuff, but not sure yet if he truly has that middle of the road approach. Because
mm-hmm.
in the conversation that I listened to, there was some clear things that I personally I would want to question.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of
But
a little lefty on some things, but then also for definitely for some of the free speech and things like that, he would identify as a sort of center left, I guess. But just as a quick intro though, so he had the coverage of the Mueller report and the reactions. And so I like to read the comment sections on certain podcasts and things like that. So lots of comments about I can't recall the exact quotes, but basically like, oh please Mr. President, stop winning, it's starting to hurt, or like calling Trump the the Teflon Don and the Lord's anointed, like who touches the Lord's anointed will be cursed, and all these different things, I guess, kind of joking about the Trump curse, with some of the fallout after the Mueller report turned up with no indictments. So that's what Jeff was laughing at. Just people were having a lot of fun.
Winning
So I've
so
never
hard
heard
it
this winning
hurts.
song, or just I don't know, just I'm so tired of winning, or just all these different things, all these gleeful comments, I guess. And but no, I didn't hear that song that Ginger mentioned.
I like
Okay.
it.
So I guess Jeff will look that up.
Lethal
Here,
comment.
It's probably copyrighted.
let me give
Whoa,
you.
whoa, whoa! Stop!
Whoa.
No,
Did you?
gleeful. They were gleeful, like happy.
Okay,
Not
okay. Sorry.
maybe lethal and gleeful.
I
But I
thought
think
I'm so sensitive. I'm sorry. I'm so triggered by anything that I thought I heard you say lethal.
no, gleeful. And I think there are other comments like, Trump's curse, because they talked about the Trump curse, like people who go against him, that they get their just desserts or whatever. And some were commenting how the Trump curse results in jail time, but the Clinton curse is a body bag, and just all these all these comments. I think that's what Jeff was. I mean,
Well,
I thought they were just
Is
hilarious. Like these, I mean, I don't think it's
Your
reverent,
audio is
but there are,
amazing.
biblical allusions and just all these Friday, and then the
so I was gonna offer you just a moment of this song to introduce our topic, if you all would like to hear it.
I don't know if it'll play over the thing, but what is the song's? Does it have a name?
Yeah, yeah. Hold on. Let's see if it works at all. Hold on. That you may get bored with winning. Believe me. This is gonna be huge. All I do is win. I'm down on what's on my mind, and that's why I gotta run. If you move into that my building, the economy will go up. And it'll stay there. It'll stay there.
Whoa.
So that's my intro to Trump.
I see.
Did
we're gonna be winning so much we're gonna be bored with winning.
yes.
I didn't really hear that, but
I heard it.
oh,
Don't worry, Ron. Jim sent you a link so you can hear it in its entirety later.
So it is altogether amusing. I feel like I don't know enough information about every single thing going on in the news, but it's altogether amusing. The whole thing, you couldn't script it better for a TV show or something. It's just been the most amazing news cycle ever, and to watch all the people that are supposed to be the unbiased media trying to grapple with the Mueller report coming out with with nothing really. It's been really entertaining. I find myself laughing at just regular old newscasts, and it's it's been so funny to watch people who are clearly biased because they're just struggling with the news. They're struggling with how to discuss the outcome of this, which is nothing, the biggest nothing burger ever.
Wow. I'm actually blown away right now that you're saying that. And I'm pleased that you're saying that.
Yeah, well, is that because I think Ron sometimes thinks Jeff is coming at things from a more leftist perspective. Is that part of it?
I thought that you guys maybe trusted the news a little bit more than what Jeff was just saying. So I'm happily surprised.
Yeah, well, for our at home discussions talking about this, yeah, it really is like the big story is the media's, how they just went crazy. Like that's the big story with this, and that's
I
very
was telling
sad and
Dana
fascinating. And
today, I was talking to Dana about how if they had covered it, dare I say, properly and just let time tell, then it would have been a much less hyped thing. It would have just been there's this report going, we don't know much about it, and we're just going to wait and see. So it would have been a sort of a wait and see news story.
Is that how you guys felt? I mean, did you think that he actually may have something going on with Russia and it was kind of like let's wait and see, or were you already seeing in the news itself that it was kind of like this isn't this isn't really going on, this isn't making sense?
I tend to try to withhold judgment regarding my feelings, but if I were to go with my feelings, I would have guessed if I had to like gamble if it was a betting table and I had to place my bets, I would have placed my bets on no. Um, but I don't I prefer the wait and see kind of thing because there was an investigation going on
Right.
and they were going to release it at some point, and it felt like this ongoing. It was like a saga, right? It was this ongoing nothing, but everyone was talking about it like it was something, and it just kept going and going, and it's just amazing to get to the very what appears to be the end of it, or it sounds like they're trying to make something else out of nothing, but
So what?
and
So
it,
why do you guys think, or you, or yeah? Um, I don't know if I'm I'm gonna kind of group you guys together because I'm assuming you're married, and kind of like my husband and myself, we tend to think alike on topics such as these. So I'll just group you guys together and say you guys. But if it's different, then you can tell me differently. But
mhm.
why do you guys think that the media was acting for the last 2 years the way that they have? Like, I mean, you just said you as an individual would have bet if you were a betting person or had the ability to bet on the situation, you're looking at it and you're saying, no, I would bet against it. So, and you're just a regular person like myself, and yet they're supposed to be our media and informing us, not giving us their opinions and their hopes and their dreams, but informing us to real things that are going on. So why do you think that they were pressing this and wanting this to happen, and even showing it now that they were kind of upset that he didn't have this Russia collusion? Like they're trying to, they want something.
So
So,
I would say that there was two mistakes. One is they made a bet. They clearly seemed to make a bet, meaning I suggested a second ago that you shouldn't make a bet. You should just let it be, and then see how it goes when you don't have enough information. But I think the first mistake is that you clearly saw this uh, over and over again. There was a taking the side that this is going to end up being a bad thing for Trump. So having that opinion to begin with, without stating this is just our opinion, and acting like you're an unbiased news source, I think that's the first mistake. And then the other thing is, the
but
second thing is that
why would they do that? Why do you
I think
think
it's a mistake.
you
I,
think that they were just simply mistaken? That
no, I think they're just making mistakes. As a math teacher, students make mistakes all day long, and in a math class, it's okay to correct them. If a student does a misstep, you correct them, and it's expected that you're correcting them, and you're expected to get to the right answer. So, in a similar way, I look at the world, and I think I see a lot of people making mistakes all the time. I think mistakes are something we can do. Even when we're trying to solve a math problem, we make mistakes. So I think they truly made a mistake. They actually attempted to be news sources and they made a mistake, a
but
misstep.
they're not
I
even apologizing, and now they're continuing on with their mistake in just a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think maybe the cause of this mistake, as Jeff puts it, would be um, probably twofold, which is one, I think they're often in an echo chamber. I remember during the election, the 2016 election, we saw some type of um, data about the percentage of political donations that had been made by members of the media. Jeff found it. I'm sure he can maybe look up the same thing. So around the election, from all the major news organizations or the mainstream media, whatever, it was something like 95% or 92% of the donations made, because those are public record by media figures or people who worked in these companies. They all went to the Democratic Party. So
So
that's
is
not
so
very
is it
balanced. Like they're just not there's nobody, they're not allowing someone else to say balance out their bias, right? If they are largely democratic and they don't want to hear another voice, I think that's part of it. Like they're not allowing anyone to speak to them because they're all thinking similarly. And then second, what I noticed, because my husband and I, we've been I think fairly for a long time listening to NPR, so for years now, that would be one of the stations we would listen to. We actually listen to a variety of sources like NPR, sometimes Catholic radio or the AM radio. But what I saw in the last few years, and I commented to Jeff, it was really different. Like, um, and maybe I was just, maybe partially, I was noticing it more. But with Trump in particular, like, I think they just really hate him. Like, they really hate him. And they're like being um, so, so I guess I had a higher opinion of NPR before these last 2 years. And then when I've heard some of the stories and some of the ways the reporters would approach things. I really would say to Jeff, like, wow, like I think their hatred's making them illogical. Like it's actually making them stupid. And that's sad. That's just my take. I think their personal feelings and then a lack of any of being open to a different perspective would cause them maybe to make this such a mistake. And also, you could say the Russia narrative was clickbait, or it'd be a way to tune in. I mean, they were really pulling a lot of people in. So someone could say, well, they just know it's lucrative. But it seems like to me, a lot of them were really like firm believers, they were doing something with this story.
I like that. I think gullible is a good one.
TDS.
What's that?
I said TDS, Trump derangement syndrome.
Hey, I was waiting to type. That was my line. You stole my line. I have it on my screen here. I was ready. I can prove it to you. I can share what's on my screen. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is it Trump derangement syndrome is a possible answer here?
Absolutely.
Well, you have to say, like, especially with the immigration stuff, there's enough, and I've shared it with people, so I know, like, they see it. I know they watch it. But when you share videos of like Obama or Clinton, both Clintons talking about immigration, or Schumer or Pelosi, any of these people, and they're all saying the same things, and that you get very different reactions. As opposed, those individuals will get very different reactions from a group of people than one person, and they will say the same exact things. That's just bizarre. I mean, that's what. But it's not like
Hey, Ron, there's a picture on the screen that fits what you just said.
Yeah. Well, I don't make this stuff up on my own. It's not like I'm the only one thinking this stuff. There's like a huge percentage of the population that goes, that's crazy. That's like, you're not thinking, you're not even willing to discuss the issue. You're just like half-cocked, shooting at the hip. Gullible. I'll call it gullible. I'll call it I don't know. That's where I know that I've been gullible. I know that I've fallen for
you.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. No, plenty of times, and I'm more than capable of it. If you don't ask questions,
hey, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I'm not accepting this yet. I need some evidence.
Anyway, no, we're not gonna talk about evidence. We're not discussing Ron tonight. We're talking about the issue. The issue is that when you examine, like this perspective of, and again, these videos, I mean, that are widely shared on social media, and I mean, literally, and sometimes in the millions of views, and they show over and over again, like, again, Obama talking about immigration, or Schumer talking about immigration, or Pelosi talking about immigration, or whoever it might be on these issues, you will hear them say a lot of times, and not necessarily verbatim, but sometimes verbatim, but you'll hear them discussing the same kind of principles, the same ideas. And depending on who's saying it, is the reaction that you're going to get. And to me, we had a friend on a couple of weeks ago, and Jeff, you were actively pointing out discrepancies in what he was saying. And you even brought up, I think, over and over again, he said, Trump said, 5,000 people have been caught. And I think you appropriately said, well, I think the number is more like 3,500, but at the end of the day, that's still a significant number. You were pointing out some things like that, which I thought was great. But you saw that really had no effect on his opinion. That didn't change what he was thinking, which I thought was interesting. But nevertheless, it's a good example of what we're talking about here.
I have a random story.
Agreement? No agreement? No opinion
Oh,
about
no,
what
no,
I
no,
just.
no, no. Yeah, yeah. I have seen this behavior in so many avenues of life that I almost think it's like a human condition that certain people have trouble changing when confronted with things that oppose their current perspective. I mean, I know this is random, but we were at a
There is
teaching
a term. There is a term that is floating
cognitive
around.
dissonance, right?
Yeah, very popular. Um, Unfortunately, it's lost its zeal because of what they do to those terms. But yeah, that would be it.
Cognitive dissonance. So I was at a training where they were teaching us how to better teach. So it's a training for teachers to teach better. And the person presenting information was quoting this person who was quoting science and whatever science means and science this and science that. And then the guy next to me had looked into some of these things and he knew that the person they were quoting was misusing the studies that they were quoting and therefore sort of not making sense basically. So when we had a moment, the presenter was near us, and then a person next to me pointed out that there's people who've spoken about how this person misuses data, and that the person she's quoting actually wrote and said she needs to stop saying that. She's saying the opposite of what my data shows. Do you think that the guy who was presenting said, "Oh, that's really interesting. Like, I need to look into that"?
Probably
And
not.
instead he said, "Well, overall, what she's saying is a good idea, though, isn't it?" And
Yeah,
all I'm saying, all I'm saying is I see it all over the place. People um, really want to hold to their position, and I think it's possible to hold to a position. It's the weird part to me is why don't you discuss the or accept the challenge to what was just told you? A lot of times, people instead of hitting the challenge head on, they instead they cut left and then cut right, like they go around it and don't even deal with it, and it makes you wonder what's going on there.
Well, it's very humiliating too. So that would have been, I mean, I didn't watch a lot of the post report coverage. Maybe somewhere out there, there were some apologies or kind of a taking account for what happened.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure they were. You just happened to miss them.
Maybe, maybe they'll find one. I heard, didn't Pierce Morgan write some article that was kind of criticizing the news coverage and um, anyway, maybe I'll look into that for the next show. But I think he might have been a voice of, really chastising other outlets or maybe his own outlet. But we'll look into that.
Well,
I
in
I
the in
Yeah,
thought
it's
the
been very
end,
interesting just to it's a oh go on Ginger.
oh,
This is her night.
um I'm not 100% sure, but I think Pierce Morgan, and because he was on The Apprentice, I think him and Trump are semi-friendly. So I'm not sure that he's like CNN or MSNBC or any of those people, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
listened to by the American public on a daily basis. You know, he's more in England.
Hmm. And then he probably didn't really run with the whole Trump's Russian spy story, maybe to begin with these last couple years.
I don't think that he did
Yeah.
because like I said, I think there. I mean, he does have some criticism of Trump, but I think being that he knows him on another level, that I don't think that he went down that road. But so I'm for me personally, that wasn't a person that I was looking for an apology from or a point out of what our media was doing. You know, I wanted like our own national media to be like, well, wait a minute, you know, maybe we've been doing this all wrong here. I mean, I knew that they wouldn't. I knew that they wouldn't. Um, but I'm just wondering if people's eyes are opening to them blatantly lying to us, and that we just can't trust them.
Yeah, or they definitely got people really excited and stressed out, maybe, and wasted a lot of time, right?
Well, yeah, and then that whole, I mean, it wasted a ton of tax dollars too. $25 million wasted,
Yeah.
you know, digging into something. And then that was the other thing. It's like, um have you guys investigated or looked into how this whole thing started? This Trump Russia collusion narrative started?
Did
And
it
your
start
thoughts
with
on that?
Hillary? Was it Hillary before the election? Actually, so yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I don't think Jeff has either.
yes, yes. The Hillary's campaign for paid for the dossier, and um, John McCain got a hold of it, which is why Trump badmouths John McCain.
Speaking of interestingness, the thing I was going to tell you before Ron said I had to answer or comment on what he said is on the screen right now. I guess I did an analysis of all those employees at the Department of Justice. Speaking of Clinton and all these people, and a surprising 90, I think it's 7% of the dollars went to Clinton. Now, granted, those people, a lot of them are perhaps appointed by Barack Obama at the time. I don't know.
You're really making me feel like I'm 40 having to try to look at this.
Sorry. Let's do the easy one.
Thank you.
But donations by federal workers to the Trump Clinton presidential campaigns, 101,852,881 versus 106,000. That's for the Department of Justice employees. It's very interesting. This came up while I was looking up news organizations, and I forget the statistic from the past, but I think it's more than 90% of the dollars donated by news organizations via publicly known funds, because when people donate, it's public. So you can look at who's working at what organizations and so forth and see where the money goes. And it's something like over 90%. I don't remember the numbers exactly. But the long story short here is that both the news organizations and those working in these government offices are all opposed to Trump, which makes him amazing, honestly. I have a very weird sort of feeling about Trump right at this moment. It's almost like I was telling Dana, it's almost like by the what is it? Actions speak louder than words. So I couldn't vote for Trump before because I think his words are pretty gross and toxic, and he just seems like a gross guy. That's just my feeling. And so I just can't, I have a hard time personally um, supporting him. However, if you look at everything he's done and what he's stood up against and how he's been attacked so constantly, and the reporting, they even did that little study where the amount of stories that are negative against him is way out of balance, right, by these news organizations. And so,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the midst of it all, if you actually look a little deeper, he is doing a lot of cool stuff. The whole employment thing, unemployment is down, and you know,
You're blowing my mind
we
right
have wage growth, and then the one that I liked was the one right here in my community, where this has been dedicated. This has been dedicated as a
Opportunity zone.
opportunity zone, which allows for tax cuts for businesses to come in and invest right down the street from me, which is a well-known low socioeconomic area. And this is all happening sort of almost behind the scenes because the media just wants to cover Russia and all this
right,
collusion, which just fell on its face. And
right.
so actions speak louder than words. I almost like Trump. If I could just remove Trump, that is the words of Trump, and a lot of the offensive things he says and does, and some of the gross actions he's done within his own personal life. If I could remove Trump from Trump, I actually kind of like Trump at this point.
Oh,
Well, you really
well,
like the war, pulling out of the war
Yeah, pulling out of
fronts, not being
Syria.
so
He kicked
war
ISIS's
hawkish.
butt, right? So that's over. So ISIS, you remember like under Barack Obama, that just kept going and going. People were getting their heads chopped off. I watched a guy lit on fire in a box. It was just the most horrendous, crazy thing. And that's over. So that's over. There's just
so
all this. There's all this stuff. So if you can get over Trump
well,
and just look at his actions, he's seems to be doing a really good job.
that
And
that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear you say that. Wait, I'm sorry, Dana, I interrupted.
oh, I think the maybe a cherry on your Sunday, Jeff, was that
Uh-oh.
Down syndrome photo just recently.
Ah,
It
yeah, that
like
was
made me tear
beautiful.
up.
That
It
was
was
really
actually really beautiful.
so
Anyway,
so here's what's amazing is that I mean I'm so happy to hear you guys say that and see those things in spite of all the negative coverage. And I mean I don't think that any of us are seeing, all this hatred, this like hatred for different races and bigotry and all this stuff that they're trying to make us believe about him. And so when it comes to, Trump and his verbiage and his past and stuff, you know, my opinion again, and the way that I see it, and I think that all of us are sinners, and I know, you guys are God believing, fearing people, and so I can say that. So all of us are sinners, and all of us have a past, and I believe that God is able to forgive us. I believe that God is able to heal us and help us to grow, and not necessarily be those people forever, you know? And so, even though he has mistakes in his past, I think, like, if you look at his family and his children and how much they love him, um, I, I might even suggest, like, following his kids on social media to see that they're pretty normal people that hang out with their own kids and do normal things. Um, and that, growing up, even though their dad had a lot of money, that he instilled good work values and ethics in them. And so, I mean, I would just ask, at least, until 2020, that you think over those things when the election comes. Because I look at the other side, and I mean, do you guys see anybody that you would vote for that the Democrats have
Uh,
put up
it to me it's way too um early
early?
for anything. But I'm just pointing out that, and I want to be very clear about something. I was listening to what you were saying, and I want to be very clear about something. I'm not talking about the media's bias towards Trump. I'm saying my own personal bias towards Trump
No,
based
I
on
know. I
the
know.
words that he's saying. And so despite the media's bias, I want to believe that I tried my best to figure out what to do with this voting thing, and it
Yeah.
was difficult for me because of who Trump is. And so I feel like his actions are rising above who he is, if that makes any sense. I could see supporting him, uh,
Well, who is he?
not despite the media's presentation of him. I'm saying despite himself.
Well, what is it? What is it that's bothering you so much?
Well, he's a really mean and ugly guy.
For
He
example,
he said that he talked about grabbing a girl by her private parts.
so
He says really mean and gross things to people to the, he insults people. He's had multiple wives and adultery last I checked. So this is not somebody that I think of as a very in that regard a very good person. He's mean, he's crude, he lies to his wives and has sex with all kinds of women.
so
Not
um
not 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 the not the that's not those
I
aren't good
think
things.
I think you really liked Ron Paul, Jeff, and you liked how he was. It seemed like he had a lot of personal integrity too. So Trump isn't Dr. Paul.
um
Yeah.
so um as 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 far as him saying grabbing women, um the the way I understood it was that he said when you have this fame and all kinds of money, that women will allow you to do such things. And being a female, and while I don't agree that one should take advantage of that, one should do that, but I will say that he's absolutely correct. There are gold diggers. We've heard that term for years now. And there are women that will allow people with fame and money to do such things because they want to be part of that. That doesn't make it right, but what he was saying, not in public, it was, you know, it was caught on mic, but not supposed to be an on mic moment. So I don't really think is that you can hold that against him.
So let me be as clear as possible. Uh, One of the concepts that's within, let's say, the more liberal mindset is consent. And I'm not saying it wasn't consensual. So in the nature of his comments, I think I agree with you that within that world there are women who might let him do what he said he could do for the reasons that he said in a consensual manner in which everybody's happy.
Right. I mean, correct.
So
I mean, you
that part of
see,
it, I'm not disagreeing with that part of it. What
okay.
I'm saying is that's a gross person. If I told you I like to grab women by their, thing because they fall all over me, I would hope you'd say that's gross. You're a gross person.
Like,
And
why are you telling me this?
no, no matter whether I'm doing it in private or in public,
Well, yeah, I
and
think
I'm gonna be really exceptionally clear here. Even if it's just in my own mind that I'm doing that kind of stuff. it's all gross, and I'm coming from a perspective that is maybe
Jeff,
unfamiliar to the
you,
majority, but I'm saying that those kind of behaviors are aberrant behaviors in my worldview.
Well,
And
Jeff,
well,
I
Jeff,
wait.
you are correct. If somebody approached anybody on the street and just made that statement, um, you are correct. I think somebody would go, "Whoa, like that's weird. That's gross. That's you know." Um,
but
I
and even if I said it to you
yeah,
privately right now, like we go
yes,
off the air and I start having that kind of thing, you would kind of be like,
yeah. Well, oh, yeah, no, no, absolutely. That I think for a majority, I I completely agree with what you're saying. I
Do you,
I think I think that the even in the context of the conversation, right? If you're giving an example, that's one thing. If you're saying that's what I actually do, that's another. I don't know, but I do know the reaction to that. Typically isn't going to be favorable from anybody. That's my point. So I don't know anybody that's going to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
I think I baked well. So I wanted to bring up something like I I think that type of talk. It's not like, especially for Jeff, that this was something totally foreign and alien. Like he worked at UPS for a few years, and that type of banter was all over the place. Like that's how a lot of the guys talked, and Jeff would purposely not participate. But I mean, right? I think so. When
well,
Trump does it, this isn't like this is something that Jeff has seen before, and is and yeah, it's often well received. Like they're all talking,
Well,
all these in
what
those
we're
types of ways. So I think
what we're
what
not addressing though, what we're not addressing is the most common context of those kinds of things. And the most common context of those kinds of things are guys not really serious about that, but joking around. It's not like here's what I'd say. I don't think if I had to if I had to place that piece of the conversation, I don't know what the conversation was, but if I had to piece that piece of conversation in the context of which I know that my own experience that I've had, that I've even said crazy stuff, crude stuff. Most of the time, it's what they call water cooler talk or guy banter, things that don't really exist, but you're just kind of like, ha ha ha, that's kind of funny. Now, again, backing up, if somebody was like serious and looking you in the eyes and being like, "Hey, do you know what I'd like to do?" Um, I like to grab women by their pussy. That would be different. But if you're joking around and you're just guys having a conversation and messing around, it's not like that. It just isn't. Um, Guys joke around like that. That's that's
I
that's
disagree with
my
you.
bottom line. No, they do,
I
Jeff,
disagree with
because
you.
you've been in those conversations. It
No,
is joking
no,
around.
no, no. I just want to be clear. Somehow there has to be a statement that what exists and what ought to be are two different things. So are you correct that guys can be disgusting? Yes. Are you correct that when they're being disgusting, it's in this sort of I'll call it playful way? I would say sort of. It's hard to know exactly where these lines of reality are and where they're just being guys, as the people like to say, being gross.
Well,
But
in
as
your
my
in
wife,
your workplace, you know a lot of guys walking around just grabbing people. Probably not.
um, so But I will say, as Dana pointed out, at UPS.
I, but by the way, in my workplace, I certainly don't. I don't know where you are, but I
Oh
certainly
no, no,
don't.
no! I get the point. I'm like, trying to agree with you in saying that it's sort of in this. It's hard to describe, but it is sort of like I don't know if I'd call it
Younger guys, I
I
think.
I wouldn't call it joking. It's not younger guys because older guys I've seen older guys do it too, and they can be disgusting. So it is Ron is right that it is sort of in this fantasy realm. Um, but I don't agree with with that because how do you where's that line where you're just it's so-called just made up and then you see actual events take place in the real world where this stuff actually happens and you're saying oh but this is sincere and that's not and I just think it's all dangerous to be honest and gross so while I agree that it exists and when you're in the midst of it while it's existing I agree that it doesn't necessarily manifest itself right there. It almost seems playful, um, almost like the difference between wrestling and a fight. A fight is clearly something different than wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is something there where it's more like banter or something like this, but it's all gross. And I personally, as an individual, should never participate in any of that gross talk. Period.
Well, well, Jeff, you're one of few. Let's say that, and that's great. That that's awesome that you are like that. But that that doesn't make every other guy abnormal. You know what I mean?
Well, it makes me abnormal,
It
but
doesn't make, well, it doesn't make you abnormal. You just, people are raised different ways, and they hear things that, may be acceptable in the environments that they were brought up in. I mean, the type of the type of people that I hung out with versus the type of people you hung out with, or Ron hung out with, or Dina hung out with, are, I mean, it sounds like different types of people
Hey,
because
I'll let me put it to you this way. How many how many how many times do you think I've thrown out jokes to people and no matter what walk of life they come from, they're like, "Whoa, that's weird."
yeah, but on task here, I'm trying my best perhaps to say we should never excuse this kind of grossness. And I'll be very honest with you, when I'm looking at the ballot box and I'm comparing the two likely candidates to win, Hillary and Trump, I'm thinking about this gross man who does actual gross things. He commits adultery. I believe that's been, part of
but
his life.
okay,
He has multiple wives.
wait a
He
minute.
says gross things. I mean, like, so that's what I'm looking at the thing. A part of me says those are part of who this man is. So when I put this picture up of him, on the one hand, it's wonderful, right? But on the other hand, he's kind of a gross guy.
But
And so
what
that personally, for me, that taints my ability to think clearly about him, if that makes any sense, or to select him as a leader.
so so do you feel that way about all leaders that you're voting for?
So there's a ideal. It'd be ideal if everyone was both moral and um, good at the job. That would be ideal.
So no.
However, I understand that that's not the world we live in. So, no, I, I I'm just saying that there are levels of grossness that rise above others. And as my wife or my what are you, my partner? My
She's your
partner
wife. Come on.
as my partner has pointed out, Ron Paul, last I checked, doesn't have any of this stuff. And it's nice because you don't even have to think about it. And maybe it's just
but
not
how do you
reported
know?
on. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
not reported on, but I've never heard of any of this negative stuff. And as a matter of fact,
Well,
many
he's
people
had
don't
one
have this
wife.
gross stuff.
He's had one wife his whole life. I mean, that's
Well,
a nice mark.
so is Bill Clinton, and look, I mean, he was got cigars and stuff in the White
Oh, he's a
House.
tragedy. Clinton is, by all means, the greatest example of hypocrisy from the liberal side of any situation ever. I mean, if you ever want to see through it all, the fact that they attack Trump and they attack people for all this immorality, but then, yeah, cigars in the White House with a office aide.
Right? How that
Um,
was how old?
oh
20?
gosh, man, she was young, right?
Yeah.
And he was old. It's
Yeah.
everything that everyone says is wrong about this world. He's the most powerful man in the world, basically, in some people's eyes. And she's an aide, right? What was
But
she?
she
Which
was.
is an
And
intern.
Intern. Oh
but
man. So
but
so
but
and then
but it was okay. And you know
no,
what?
no,
He
no.
never
I'm
did.
not saying it
Never,
was okay.
but it was because she
No,
was an
but a lot of
adult
people,
and
but a lot of
being
people do think
sensitive.
it's okay.
I am
Hate
talking
to
to
break it.
I'm
Hate to
talking to
break
Jeff
it.
though. I'm talking to Jeff though.
I know.
I think you're talking
I'm
too about like the Me Too
I'm
and the wake of Me
agreeing
Too and all that.
I'm agreeing with quite strongly with Ginger, our incredible guest. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying Clinton's a perfect example too of this grossness. These are gross people. These are people like you'd be like, should I invite them in my house? They're gross. Anyway, so those things always, for me personally, it affects me because, uh,
But if what if over years, you know, the Clintons had changed? I mean, is
oh,
there
people can
is
always
there
change. I believe in change.
okay, okay. So
I myself
so how
was
do
a lot grosser 20 years ago than I am now.
all right, all right. So how do you know? How do you know that Trump has not changed?
I don't,
Okay.
but
All right. I
uh,
just wanted to clarify that because people change, and you know, nobody leads a perfect life. I certainly haven't in my 40 years. I have not led a perfect life. And if I had the world looking at everything that's come out of Ginger's mouth or things that I have done, then I, you know, couldn't stand through this scrutiny. So so when you know, I for me when I went to the ballot box, I one of the things that stood out to me the most is his family and the way that he is with his kids, the way that they look at him as a dad, and of course his history in business. And you know, for over 30 years he's been in the public eye. His before becoming president, before running for president, these same media outlets would have him invite him on for business commentary and his opinions on things, and welcomed him and took in what he had to say. So you know, those are the things that I looked at. I didn't look at his affairs, because people do things and it's not always right, and I, you know, I don't agree with those things, obviously. I don't think that he's currently having one, or has since he's been with Melania. I think some of that stuff's all kind of made up, but I mean, I know for sure that he had the affairs his with his first wife, with his second wife. I know that.
yeah.
And I know that he's had his shenanigans with different various women throughout his years. But at the
A lot
same
of
time,
accusations, very few things verified. But
right. But I look at all different types of celebrities that people look up to. I look at, sports players, musicians, actors, and I see those same things within their lives and how they can get caught up into those things, you know? And nobody's not gonna let Kobe play because he cheated on Vanessa. You know what I mean? And all the other actors. And I don't think that has anything to do with him running the country, and obviously it doesn't, because he's doing a fine job.
well, I kind of ironically, I opened with the idea that
Well,
actions speak
hold on
louder
a
than
second.
words.
To be fair though, to be fair, and I mean, you really have to consider this. That was a big, huge argument with Clinton, that what was going on in his personal life, he could run the country effectively. Hindsight, if you ignore media coverage from the right, at this point, the right will say and give him credit for a lot of things. They almost prop him up with economic kind of commentary. And during the time when he was being examined, many of the arguments and many people were saying, "Hey, yeah, not the best situation to be caught up into, but what does this really have to do with him being able to run the country?" So we have to pause whenever we have these discussions and compare those things, look at those things, consider those things, and put them into the equation. And I would say rightly so, based on what Ginger's saying at this point. Clinton would be a perfect example of that if you're paying attention to what they're actually saying about him.
No, she's right. I agreed. And I was going to say, ironically, I opened with an agreement about this. What I'm saying, when I say actions speak louder than words, what I'm saying is that his actions, that is, if I were to be more clear, his performance as a president, he seems to be doing well, and that is overshadowing all of his character flaws. That's what I mean by actions speak louder than words.
Well,
To the
yeah, no,
point,
I know. I
to
was
the
just
point that
saying.
I'm,
I
to
was
the
just
point
trying
that
to make.
I'm. Go ahead.
I was just trying to make the comparison between the two because Clinton's obviously a well talked about ex president at this point, and even during his presidency, he had all that stuff going on. Well, when it was going on, the right basically was, you know, obviously strongly against him, and saying, hey, his personal life, absolutely does affect, what he does as a president. They were trying to impeach him. And what I'm trying to point out is that, if you're looking at those character flaw kind of situations, um, if you're saying that for one person, it doesn't necessarily affect their job, that's probably true about the other person as well. That's all I'm saying.
And I think I agreed that Clinton was a great example as a comparison. And
Yeah.
it reveals the perhaps the hypocrisy on both sides, depending on how you spin things. But for anyone who attacked Clinton for his character and made that a big deal, yet doesn't attack Trump for his character and makes that a big deal, it is true there's something funny going on there. That kind of exposes them as probably having some hypocrisy or some bias, right? Um, so for those people who do that, that makes sense. And similarly, that's what I was pointing out with Trump. Those who attack Trump's character, it's strange that they don't attack Clinton. They let Clinton still gets to speak, and Clinton's still this great guy. Even though from what I can tell, he's in the same category in my mind, this kind of gross guy. Like, do I let him around my children kind of guy, you know? So 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 yes, yes, yes to everyone. Is that good? Yes.
That sounds like a wow. That's a definitive statement. Yes. Was there a second topic on the roster?
Oh yeah, there was lots of topics.
I will tell you that I just watched a police chief and some other guy who looked like he probably was supposed to be somebody important. I don't know his name or what his purpose was, but they were both lamenting how Jesse, is it, what's his name?
Emmanuel?
Huh?
What was the chief's name? Or
Is
the
what's his name? Jesse what?
smaller, Smollett, Smollett.
I'm not prepared to know, I mean to speak at all about this thing, but it was interesting to watch what looked like the police chief or something like this, lamenting how they did their work. They showed that there was evidence for this. They brought it to the grand jury. The grand jury said to try him, and then they didn't press charges. That's the news story, the other one, right?
Yeah. So, well, did you see the events a couple weeks ago that took place? So Jesse is a black gay man actor, or rich in pigmentation. Is that what you'd like to say?
Richly pigmented, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um,
Wow, you are a dedicated listener.
Ding, ding, ding. She gets another 10 points.
Wow.
um,
Oh.
Maybe 2 shirts. This is amazing.
however, I have asked my black friends what they prefer, and they said just, I'm black. So, anyhow, um, he he said that he was attacked by two Trump supporters wearing red MAGA hats in the middle of the night when he went to go get his Subway sandwich. They attacked him and tried to pour bleach on him and put a noose around his neck. So the whole police department basically shut down and were looking for these attackers in Chicago. And we all know how dangerous Chicago is. And their 24/7 job was to find Jesse's attackers. It turns out that Jesse hired two black Nigerian men to um, put together this stunt. It is, they have them on videotape going to a store and purchasing those items. And Jesse was arrested and um, had 16 federal indictments against him. And all of the sudden, today, those charges were dismissed out of nowhere.
Yeah, I want to look more into it because it just sounds crazy. And it was the mayor that I saw. It was the police chief
Yeah.
and mayor who were in that video because
Emmanuel.
I was looking it up right now while you were talking. And they just can't believe it. Um, and I was talking to Dana about this. I guess the whole idea of all this I'm a little confused about. The idea is that the investigators get the information, the police gather, they do all this stuff, and then it goes. I understand the concept of a grand jury. A grand jury is a group of people that is selected to find out if somebody can be tried. And so the grand jury said that he could be. That's my understanding of this case.
Correct.
And then the last step there is the what? Who is it decides whether to try them?
The DA, or was it higher up because of the felony nature?
No, it was just the district attorney.
So that's the thing. I was talking to Dana. Does anyone here know? Is it so the district attorney can just say, "Nah, we're not gonna."
Yes.
Yep.
I think we've talked about this for Pomona before.
It's just
Like with
crazy. I don't
certain cases,
understand.
like they have to think, if they might even just have to think, okay, do we have enough evidence to actually get a conviction?
Yeah, and then she said that she assumed that they would just give him community service, and because he did so much community service when he was 16, that he didn't need to do anything any further.
I think there
What?
was a fine. There was a fine too, like the bond, like he doesn't get it back. But you know, I did read a real brief story before this show, trying to research, and there was some statement um from now I forget who it was, but someone with the Chicago, familiar with the Chicago legal system, police system, and they were saying that um, perhaps because there's so many violent crimes, that for some of these non-violent crimes, they have been doing that more, like giving, you know, even if it's up to the level of felony, um, that they'll be more likely just to dismiss the case, give them some type of, you know, community service or fine, whatever, maybe as a way of relieving money and energy or something to go after the more violent crimes.
Do you
So
do you
perhaps
do
that was
you
it
do you,
too
do you think that's justice?
for his particular case. I
Yeah.
like I'm speaking from. I mean, I didn't get into the detail. I mean, I knew the basic details of his case, um, and I haven't looked into comparative, like what someone typically gets when they falsify a police report and all of that.
And
So I have
well,
to think about it more, but it did seem like in this particular case, it was just very sad at the amount of um, hours that were dedicated to on the police departments and to looking for you know, investigating a hoax where they were just wasting a lot of time. That seemed very sad.
well,
And
he also um one of the biggest things that happened was that he mailed himself a threat
yeah, a
with
few weeks before.
white powder, which is also a federal offense.
Oh, to make that a hoax.
Yes, to be mailing like a threat in that, using the federal government to send something like that is a federal offense as well. And so, and then on top of all of it, I mean, one of the biggest issues, right, was, I mean, he falsified all of this, but he what he was really, trying to do is cause up a racial division by saying that these were two white MAGA supporting, this is MAGA country. That's what he said that they said. Get out of here, and making gay racial slurs, towards him. So he, not only was he, trying to make up this whole crime, but he was turning it into that it was Trump supporters that hated gay people and hated black people, and they were white.
The scary thing
Poorly pigment.
would have been if the hoax had not been figured out, that um And if they had arrested somebody, some hapless pair of individuals, that would have been truly awful if Jesse Smollett would have kept it up, even resulting in an innocent person getting charged with the crime. So I guess again, I haven't thought about this too
You're
much,
right. You're
but
right.
a biblical idea of Old Testament justice would be you get whatever penalty you were willing to falsely accuse somebody else of. That's pretty weighty, and I don't think it would have been community service and $10,000.
Right. Right. Absolutely. But I mean, I think that's disgusting behavior, and it saddens me on multiple levels. I mean, I'm a white person, and I'm a Trump supporter, and the way that the media is portraying us um, is scary. Some a
Yeah,
Trump
I
supporter's car was
find
lit on fire
it
today.
um oh
You're
bad.
breaking up, Dana. Deep state, Dana.
Yeah,
I didn't.
sorry.
I didn't.
I know I was in the wrong room. What? So I didn't hear that someone's car was set on fire.
Yes, somebody's car, a Trump supporter's car, was set on fire today because it had a cutout of Trump inside of it, or like in one of the windows or whatever, and the car was set on fire and burned out. So I feel like that's another huge hypocrisy that's not being talked about as much as it should be, where Trump supporters are getting attacked. And like when they were talking about Trump supporters, going to rallies early on in the 2016 election, they were talking about how violent they were. And all this time, it's actually been the other side attacking Trump supporters. Like they're kicked out of restaurants, they're they're getting um, kicked out of college campuses and can't speak. Their cars are being set on fire. They're getting kicked in the face. I mean, like so many things are happening just because. I mean, I just wonder what people would be doing, how the media's reaction would be if Obama supporters were being treated in this manner. I mean, I think that they would be calling, everybody racist, but this isn't getting any coverage.
We've seen similar things in the past where, well, just the whole Antifa thing. The Antifa attacks are startling to me, the things I've seen them doing, and you would think it would be a giant news media event that there's a group out there destroying things, but it really doesn't seem to get coverage. But
Right.
then if something happens the other way around, no matter what it is, ever, if somebody sends somebody a letter or something that has, I don't know, whatever, and it's like the biggest news story ever. And it's even at the crazy level of what happened in New Zealand. In New Zealand, that guy went through and killed some around 50 people. But in other parts of the world, there's hundreds of people being killed right now too. Um,
Daily.
and I think the number in some part of the continent of Africa, I forget, there's a thing going on right now, and they're up to 200 people killed. And but that doesn't receive the coverage, and so you sort of like you wonder
Are
what
you
is going
talking
on
about
here.
are you talking about the Christians that are being murdered?
Yeah,
Is that what you're referring to?
yeah.
Right. So so they're willing to discuss Muslims that are being murdered, but they're not willing to discuss the Christians. Why do you think that is?
So this is where Ron likes to say I don't ask questions or something like that. And I don't know what's going on, but I can clearly see a lack of coverage of one thing, but a huge amount of coverage of another.
So you see it, but you don't know why.
Well, I think on one hand, well, I think one element of it is that we're considered, um, you know, a first world nation, and so I think when things happen like in Western Europe, or like New Zealand, Australia, I think there's a lot more sense of, hey, this is like a similar culture. But when there's violent things happening in South America or Africa or parts of Asia, I think part of it is or sadly, there's this, maybe, the idea of the
Xenophobia.
soft, well, or soft bigotry of low expectations, like almost like, well, of course those places are all messed up and messed up things happen there. I think that might be part of it. So with New
That's
Zealand, I think one element of it is, wow, that's like a country just like ours, where if something violent happens in some country in Africa, there's just not as much, it doesn't feel like as similar. um I think that
that's a
is one
damning
aspect.
thing you just said, I gotta tell you. What you just said is very damning, if
That's
it's true.
on the news meet. Well, that's what I've wondered, like, because, or like, say Pakistan, like there's all this persecution against Christians, very unjust. In the Philippines, all these different things happen, and I'll read, because I get news coverage from Voice of the Martyrs, so the Christian group that highlights persecution all around the world. And there's just, I mean, what happened in New Zealand was terrible, but some of those same types of things, those where the Christian groups are targeted just because they're Christians. There's not other aspects there. They're really just purposely murdered.
Well,
These are happening all the time, and so maybe that's part of it, though, that it's in these other countries that just aren't as. It's not England where it's happening, where
well,
the whole church is burned down, but with people
but
in it.
but Muslims are attacking people in England and Germany and Sweden every day.
So what's interesting is I did hundreds of Nigerians killed search in the news, and we get the New American is talking about it. WXYZ, you know that famous news organization?
Oh, good old
Oh,
WXYZ.
Snopes is in the rough. Snopes is wondering whether it happened.
Oh, of course they are.
Let's see, CBN News,
CNN hasn't told
Washington
them yet.
Monthly, LifeSite, BP News, CBN. Where's Brett Bart, Nigerian Muslim militants kill 120. Oh,
Ron,
New York Times, a race to save children after Nigeria building collapses. Oh, oops.
where'd Ron go?
Ron, he's there. He just likes to listen, you know. He's contemplating the universe right
He's
now, and
biding
it's
his
it's it's a big
time.
deal.
Oh, I'm here. I'm listening. Very
So look,
engaged.
New York Times covered it. A race to save children after Nigerian building collapses.
Hmm.
Oh, ooh, sorry, they missed it. They covered another story in Nigeria. Oh.
Yeah, it's very sad. And like, say, the Asia BB case.
Did the
I mean,
building collapse because the Muslims blew it up?
I don't know. So let's see. I'm gonna read this Snope one here. But before I do, can I read the statement? We're going all over the place here, but let me read the statement from the actual statement from the Cook County State's Attorney. It says statement on dismissal of charges for Jussie Smollett. After reviewing all the facts and circumstances of the case, including Mr. Smollett's volunteer service in the community and agreement to forfeit his bond to the city of Chicago, we believe this outcome is a just disposition and appropriate resolution to the case. In the last 2 years, the Cook County State Attorney's Office has referred more than 5,700 cases for alternative prosecution. This is not a new or unusual practice. An alternative disposition does not mean that there were any problems or infirmities with the case or the evidence. We stand behind the Chicago Police Department's investigation and our decision to approve charges in this case. We did not exonerate Mr. Smollett. The charges were dropped in return for Mr. Smollett's agreement to do community service and forfeit his $10,000 bond to the city of Chicago. Did you hear that? He just had to pay him $10,000.
I'm disgusted.
That
I mean,
is crazy.
I'm
Now,
just
Well,
wait,
especially with how much he
before
makes. What was he making per episode? Like 60,000 or something like that?
now, before you get too disgusted, don't worry. They make sure that you know something. Before you get too disgusted, they said, without the completion of these terms, the charges would not have been dropped. This outcome was met under the same criteria that would occur for and is available to any defendant with similar circumstances. I
really,
have to I have to say, hey, wait a second here. $10,000 payout? Is that available to everybody who gets charged with the crime?
wow.
Pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
I just want to put this question out there, and nobody, it's really a rhetorical question, but I'm just going to put it out there, so don't feel obligated to answer it. But what would happen if a white person did that about two black Obama supporters? Do you think that they would have the same outcome? You really don't have to answer it because I think you already know, but you can.
You sound like Ron. Maybe
Sorry.
you are DJ Ginger.
Maybe that's why he's been so quiet. No,
Ron's
Ron.
alter ego. Is this really Ron? Are you doing
No,
ventriloquism, Ron?
that would be too much.
That would be good.
Let's see if you can both talk at the same time.
Well,
Wait,
oh,
who's
we
the
can.
who's the older sibling and who's the younger?
Here, you answer that question.
Oh, that's an age question. That's right. You're not supposed to ask
Oh, is that
age questions.
sensitive?
No, I'm not sensitive.
Is someone named someone who starts with a R and ends with a on sensitive about this question?
He's not. I'll answer for him.
I'll answer. I'm older, but we don't
Dang
talk
it!
about
I wanted
we
them
don't
to
talk about
guess.
specifics.
I wanted them to guess.
But were you guys friendly growing up?
Yes, friendly in the fist fighting way. No. Yeah, we were. We were. I would say so. Do you think so, Ron? Oh,
Uh,
he's gone dark.
yeah, yes.
Is this getting too close, Ron?
No, no.
Yeah,
Um,
Ron and I have always been very close, and we talk almost on a daily, and we live like a block away from each other. We don't see each other that often, but we talk frequently, and I make sure that I help him stay informed on news.
what you guys never see. Again, I talked about conservatives will think I'm liberal. Liberals obviously think I'm ultra conservative. But um, how many times we've been in arguments about the Trump administration? Many times, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's
oh yeah. We argue almost weekly, probably about the Trump administration.
yeah, because she will defend a lot of things, and I obviously come with a lot of questions.
And I come with a lot of answers.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Anyway, enough of that.
Well, I'm trying to just add the human story too, like the human element
Yeah,
that we could
no,
all relate
there's
to.
yeah. Well, I mean, um, we've talked about it many times, but Jeff and I have been having these discussions for a very long time. We,
I
I
I want
mean,
I want to give my human element so Jeff and Dina have background on who Ginger is and any listeners since Ron already knows. So you guys are well aware that I'm a Trump supporter, but I've also been married for 19 years and with my husband for 22 years. We have a 21-year-old daughter and we have an almost 17-year-old daughter and one boxer dog that we love.
But not the
And,
daughters.
and yes, we love we love the daughters. But Jackson is the baby and our only boy. And Ron loves him very much as well.
Oh wow. These
Not really.
daughters are not getting a lot of love.
Yeah, no. but that's my story.
Does the boxer drool? Because I hear they drool.
No, he does. He's not a drooler.
Oh, okay.
He's cute. He's very cute. I'll have to send you a picture so you can post it when we talk about Jax, maybe
Of
on
course.
another
You
call.
make it your profile picture.
No, I actually was thinking about making the MAGA hat my profile picture.
Oh, oh no. You got to be careful. You might get attacked with something like that.
Oh, well, so do you actually wear a MAGA hat?
I do. I do. Well, no, I don't have. I. I don't think. I don't have the red one. I have a dark blue one. Um, I do, and I have a Trump shirt, Trump 2020 shirt. I have. I went to one of his rallies with my husband in 2016, and then when he came out to Arizona this past no,
um,
October.
uh,
What?
yeah, okay.
Oh, I went to his rally when he and he pointed at me. I have a picture of him pointing at me. And then we also went and visited Donald Trump Jr. He came local and was speaking in a city nearby, and we went to see him and we took pictures with him and he signed my husband's hat and I have video of him saying hi to my daughters. He allowed me to record him and say hi to Allie and Mackenzie. So that was super cool. And yeah, my daughters also went to the Trump rally that we went to this past year before the election. So they are also Trump supporters. And my daughter and my oldest daughter, she voted for Trump in her very first voting election.
So so do you regularly wear the hat or the shirt when you're out in public?
Um, I mean, no, not every weekend when I go out, but yeah, on occasion, actually, the younger daughter will be like, "Let's wear our Trump hats and we'll go out shopping and we'll wear them." And I have, like I said, Trump hats and pins, and people have given me little Trump things.
You may have got cut.
What's that? I didn't hear you.
Maybe he got cut off. So when well, I'm curious, what kind of response from like strangers will you get? Is it largely positive, negative, neutral?
Um, I have had positive response. I haven't had any negative response or any um negative like looks or anything like that. Nobody's done anything to me. But
Okay, well,
but people have come up and they'll like give me a thumbs up walking by or say like I like your shirt, I like your hat, stuff like that. But I haven't had any negative response.
okay, that's interesting. I don't know if you listened to one of the shows that we had. Um, it was right around the Covington
I
time.
did. Hmm.
Okay, so where I was actually surprised to hear someone I know say that whenever they see somebody with the Trump hat, they basically would assume that they were racist, and that really surprised me. So I knowing that that mentality is out there, and then also I guess I was surprised hearing it from somebody I knew. I was just like, wow. Like I thought about my friend whose son wears the hat. Uh, oh, Ginger, did she
Yeah.
leave the call?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Someone else did. All right. Well, where, it made me think, oh, it's probably very dangerous to wear these hats because if people are out there thinking that you're a racist, you might get a real negative response. But that's interesting to hear that so far. It hasn't been that way for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope that, in it it's kind of like, in being a Christian, like I hope to be an example for Christ, in some sense, like when I wear a hat or whatever, like maybe people will have a different opinion of what they think of what a Trump supporter is, so, I'm not, I mean, I'm not a nasty person. I just agree with his policies, and I don't think that he's a racist person. I mean, that was never, again, that's, one of those things that never ever came up prior to him running for president. He was never a racist. They didn't not have him come on all these different shows, including him being on Oprah, you know, because he was some racist guy. I mean, he he's gotten awards for helping in different Black communities, and he's done a lot, even being our president, to help the Black communities. And there are so many um, Black supporters, as well as um, you know Latino supporters.
So, have you found that your support for Trump has caused any of your um, in real life or online relationships to suffer? Or has
Yes.
it been pretty okay? It has.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I have some family and not close family, um, but family and um, friends, not close friends, that have, decided to not speak to me anymore or what have you.
Now,
But
was it because like you guys would debate a lot and it would get contentious, or was it just the fact that you were supporting him?
um, mostly just the fact that I supported him. Like a lot of people, the day after the election, it was like it was like the thing to do. Oh, you supported him? Okay, I'm not speaking to you anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
So, which was interesting. It didn't happen until he actually won. Um, and then they were like, "Oh, you were one of the people that voted for this person." Okay, I don't. And they didn't say anything. They just all of a sudden they weren't there anymore. You know. There has been some, because I'm outspoken, and so when people post things that are ridiculous, I come back with facts, and so at times people don't like that, and people have removed me from being their friend. But again, none of these people um were super close to me. They're
Mm-hmm.
people that like I knew in high school, or family that is family technically, but I never talked to them. So um it didn't affect my life on a daily basis. And I mean, if you can't respect other people's opinion, then I mean, I respect yours. I mean, not agree with you or like it, but I'm not going to not talk to you. I would rather like try to talk to you and come to, like, hey, did you see this? Hey, kind of like you guys do on a weekly basis, right? Having this show and talk it out and figure things out, and not hate each other for seeing things differently, but just agree to disagree. I mean, I think that's just the normal right thing to do.
Yeah. So when you think about um, like 2020,
Mm-hmm.
um, and well, okay, so if he wins, do you think the
Don't say it.
backlash will be
Don't say
even?
that.
Oh, if do you think the
Oh, I'm sorry.
backlash will be even worse because with 2016 nobody saw that coming?
Um,
Because that actually, to me, I think, gosh, well, they were setting cars on fire and stuff when
right.
he was inaugurated. Like, but now they might have more anger and more time to mentally prepare for the prospect that he might actually win. What do you think about that?
Well, for 2020, I am all in, and I plan on volunteering and helping um, him to get revoted in or reelected in any way that I can. Um, as far as the backlash goes, I I didn't expect what happened. I didn't expect that reaction. So even though I would hope, people wouldn't react that way, and I think that a lot of it was tied to being funded by different groups. Um, it wouldn't surprise me. It would sadden me, but not surprise me at this point.
Yeah, well,
Now, do
oh,
you do you guys um, do you guys know of any groups that were funding these behaviors that after the election and on college campuses? And did you hear about the new executive order that Trump signed last week about freedom of speech on college campuses and taking away federal funds if that's not being followed? And what are your opinions on those things?
well, I didn't look too much into the free speech executive order and like how like what exactly that would entail, but I mean, I like free speech. It was disturbing to hear about what happened on many college campuses. like how the college campuses would often put more security responsibilities on the people who were having the guests come in, even though it's not them who's causing the chaos. It's the protesters. So to make them have that burden, that was really unfair. I'm not sure how the order would deal with all those situations, right? But I do think it sounds really good, like a good step forward on for college campuses. And the other one about the question about the groups funding, like I'd read little blurbs about Soros funding this and that or different groups, and I didn't get too much into it. It wouldn't be shocking that if there were, it's not shocking to me if there was coordinated efforts to hire protesters and all those different things. But like I said, I didn't get too much into it. And
most importantly, I haven't heard enough from Ron. And also, we're getting towards the end of the show, or maybe we might have passed the end of the show.
I think we doubled
a half hour ago.
We were supposed to do a 45-minute show tonight,
yeah,
but it was just
true.
so much. There was so much. I think this is like 3 shows. We should have broken it up into 3 shows.
I'm here. I'm taking it all in. I've got a lot to think about. I'm hearing a lot of interesting stuff.
Also known as he fell asleep on the side.
I wanted to go to sleep tonight too.
No, I'm just taking it all in. I'm taking it all in.
That's all you're gonna give us?
No. Well, I mean,
end us strong here because we got to end.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, Ginger, thank you so much for your amazing, steadfast support of what's happening here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for allowing me to join. I'd be happy to participate anytime. This was a lot of fun.
And for any other Earthlings out there, it is actually an open door. You might get muted like I muted Ginger at first, but she did pass the test to find out who she was. But it's really nice having you on and to actually hear your voice. And thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We do have a rule, by the way.
Okay.
Anybody gets out of control and goes on long rants.
We complain about them on the next show.
Yeah, well, saying absolutely nothing, and yet saying all kinds of stuff.
I think I've heard that guy before.
They get cut off.
Oh, new rule.
They get cut off.
But your thoughts, though, I want to round off this show.
My thoughts are I'm delighted by a discussion. I'm happy to hear a conversation happen. I'm happy to hear people asking questions and just having a dialogue. That's what the purpose of it's for. To open up a conversation and just talk about things. That's it. I mean that what the stated purpose of the show from the beginning has been that, and so happy to do it, obviously.
And if you're the amazing person who made it to this part of the show, you could be the second email at djronshow@gmail.com.
Excellent. Awesome.